And Mark Auerbach is co-host. We are zooming from all corners of the globe today on Athenaeum Spotlight. So, Guy, I know that you have a great exhibit running right now at the Athenaeum, and that later on in the program, you're going to show us a nice video about it.
Yeah, we have a great exhibit. It's the work of Ruth Kjaer. It's called Golden Rain, a feminist sensibility in an eclectic age. And she's a really interesting artist here who lives here in Western Mass, who's done a lot of interesting work. And I was really shocked. I had visited her studio several times before the exhibit opened, but I was really shocked when we got things up on the wall. Her works are just so interesting. She does these huge paintings that are very, very powerful. And she explores some really interesting intellectual themes that I think are very, very interesting as well. So I'm really excited. And our audience today is going to have a chance to see a little kind of an introduction to the exhibit that we prepared for presentation in the exhibit and also on social media.
So, how long a video is that?
It's about a 20-minute video. So in what it does, I walk through and point out certain things in the different paintings. It's basically an introduction to a lot of the themes she explores in her art, because she takes on some very interesting, very relevant themes, social issues. She's very interested in women's issues today, but she does it in a very unique way. She does it by exploring, taking Greek myths and reinterpreting them for the modern era from a woman's perspective, which I think is very, very interesting.
There was an earlier appointment that popped
What
up.
what we'll do, Guy, is in we'll show it at the beginning of the second half hour of the program today, and then but beforehand, how long does that exhibit run at the Athenaeum?
That exhibit will run through July 30th. Because of the fact that we don't have anything planned in August, we think we're going to extend it probably into the middle of August. So it'll probably run into the middle of August, but officially it's up through July 30th.
And you had a lot of visitors, first-time visitors to the Westfield Athenaeum to see her work, since her work is so well known, particularly in the arts community in the Upper Valley, like Northampton, East Hampton, and all that.
Yes. A lot of people have been coming down from East Hampton, Northampton, other places, Springfield area, to see her work, because she is well known in the area. She's done a lot of exhibits. She did a really big exhibit about 10 years ago in Springfield. She's done an exhibit at Westfield State University. Several exhibits up in the Northampton, East Hampton area. So yes, a lot of people from that area came down. And what was amazing is a lot of people had not seen the Rand Art Gallery that's part of the Westfield Athenaeum, which is a beautiful space. If people watching the program have not seen the Rand Gallery, I really feel like you should come in and see the gallery, because it's a beautiful big open space, and artists love exhibiting here at the Athenaeum because the space is so much bigger than so many other venues for artists. If you look at a lot of the galleries in the area, there's like the Oxbow Gallery in East Hampton. There's other galleries in Northampton. They're smaller than our space. We have a really kind of big, grand area. And so artists love it because they can really show a lot of their work, and they can show their larger work. So many times galleries are too small for artists to show their largest paintings. But our gallery is just perfect for artists to show really huge paintings. And Ruth does some really large paintings. In addition to that, we extended her show out into the Great Hall of the Athenaeum, the area where all the books are located in the main part of the library, and they're up above the bookshelves, and they're, it's just incredible seeing her paintings in that area as well.
So now that it's summertime, you've got this great exhibit, but plus tons of other programs at the Athenaeum that run the gamut from reading programs to this cookbook reading thing. So what are some of the highlights of summer in Westfield at the Athenaeum?
Well, the biggest thing we're doing this summer is our summer reading program. This is very popular and a big hit, especially for families with children. There's a lot of activities, programs involved with that, and prizes to be won, and all kinds of things that you can do with that. And this is really, I think, this is one of our most important yearly programs, is our summer reading program, because one of the things that educators have realized over the years is that children's reading skills actually drop during the summer. That at the end of the school year, if they're reading at a certain level, by the time school starts again in September, their level has dropped again. And so many times teachers have to do a little remedial teaching to bring kids back up to speed and then advance their reading skills from there. And one of the things they found is that children who participate in summer reading programs do not lose the gains that they had for the previous school year. They keep their reading level at least parallel, if not an improvement to their reading level during the summer. So we think that's one thing that's really beneficial to parents who are trying to help their kids develop their reading skills. But also too, it's a lot of fun. We think, the best way for kids to learn to read and improve their reading skills is to do it, is to come in, read books. And especially in the summer, the kids can read the books that they're interested in. They can find things that focus on their interests. And so I think that's a really very productive practice. And it's a great thing to do in the summer when you're on the beach. It's nice to have a couple of books to read. So it's good that way. So we've got that going, but we also have a great food program series that we're doing that's been very, very successful. So we've got that as an ongoing series too. Finally, and I'm really excited about this, we have a trip to Tanglewood planned on July 30th. That's going to be a lot of fun. Everybody's going to meet here at the Athenaeum. We've got a bus all set up. We're going to go to the Morgan House in Lee for dinner. And then from after dinner, everybody loads back up on the bus, goes over to Tanglewood for the concert. And the concert, I'm really looking forward to this. Paul Lewis, one of the great pianists working today, who's a great interpreter of Beethoven. He's considered probably the greatest pianist, interpreter of Beethoven living right now. He's going to be performing two Beethoven piano concertos, Piano Concerto number 1 and Piano Concerto number 4. In addition, there's going to be a premiere of a piece by Caroline Shaw, one of the most interesting young composers working in America today. She's very interesting. She won the Pulitzer Prize at the age of 31, which is the youngest anybody ever has won the Pulitzer Prize. And since that was in 2013 that she won the Pulitzer, since then she's written a variety of really interesting music that's being played by orchestras and string quartets and all kinds of other ensembles right now. So they're gonna actually do a premiere. Boston Symphony is gonna play one of her orchestral pieces at this concert. So that's gonna be an added treat in addition to the Beethoven pieces. So we're really excited about that trip. First time we've done this.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if the Athenaeum had ever done a trip to an art circuit performance before.
No, this is something completely new. We hope this is the beginning of a bunch of these. We hope that we're already talking about maybe organizing a trip to the Boston Symphony in the fall. We're also looking at maybe a trip to the Metropolitan Opera in New York, maybe in the spring. So we're looking at various options, and then we hope we can do this again next year and organize a trip to Tanglewood. I think this is really nice. It's a chance for people who enjoy classical music or enjoy opera to get together with other people, friends and other people who have the same interests. And you don't have to worry about transportation. It's taken care of by the bus. company, and you get a nice dinner, you get a chance to meet other people interested in the same subject, and then you get to go to a wonderful concert, and you don't have to worry about driving and parking and dealing with all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, other like the Quadrangle in Springfield used to have a travel program, and New England Public Media used to have a travel program where you'd go to the New York for a weekend and see 4 or 5 operas at the Met and things like that. And they sort of died out over time. But I think it's really a convenient way to go to a cultural event where your transportation and a meal is provided. Makes for a great evening or afternoon where you don't have to drive anywhere.
Yeah, I think this is really, a nice opportunity, and especially for people who maybe, don't like to drive, or maybe have trouble driving. Some people have trouble driving at night, and so it's hard to go to a Tanglewood concert and then come all the way back to Westfield. So I think this is a really nice opportunity. But I think the best thing about it is just the chance to get together with like-minded people. And enjoy a nice chance to form new friendships and people who are interested in the same thing that you're interested in. And then also too, I'm going to give a little pre-concert talk on the bus on the way there. So people are going to get a little introduction to the concert on the way. So I think it's a really nice opportunity for people, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think people will really enjoy it.
Are there a lot of tickets left for that, or is it a hot ticket?
There are a few tickets left, but one of the problems with this is, we have to let Tanglewood know how many tickets there are available. So the thing is, people have to sign up very quickly because we have limited seats, of course, on the bus. And then also too, we have a deadline. Tanglewood puts a deadline on us to let us know how many tickets we need. And so if people want to do this, they need to call quickly. Because tickets are running out soon.
WSFD-LP.org.
Yes.
Is that right? Did I get it right?
That's correct. You got it. Yeah, you can just go to our website, westfield.org, and you can check out all the information on that.
That sounds great. We're going to take a quick break to acknowledge our underwriters who make Athenaeum Spotlight possible. And we'll be back and we'll chat more with Guy McLain from the Westfield Athenaeum, and he brought a video with him, which we'll get to see in the second half hour of today's program. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. We'll return after these messages.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Athenaeum Spotlight, everyone. Guy McLain. That's Guy over there. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. If you missed a part of today's program or you want to watch it again or share it with friends, it's archived on Westfield Community Westfield Community Radio's YouTube page. So, Guy, we've got this exhibit with Ruth Kjaer. We're going to see the video soon. What are some of the things coming for the fall at the Athenaeum?
Well, we have a great lineup of art exhibits to follow Ruth Kjaer's exhibit. In September and October, we have the artist Laura Radwell, another artist who's doing really interesting work right now. I'm really excited about that show. She does these wonderful kind of landscapes, kind of minimalist landscapes that are almost abstract, but they're just beautiful, beautiful colors. Very, very interesting work. And then in November, December, we have Frank Cressati, who's an artist who's been working in Western Mass for many, many years. He taught at Holyoke Community. He taught art at Holyoke Community College. He's doing some very interesting new work that's kind of different than what he did in the past. So I'm really excited about that exhibit. And then next year in the spring, we have the artist Imo Ime, who is an art professor at Westfield State University. He's doing some incredible work right now. I just saw a show of his at a gallery in Holyoke just a couple of months ago, and it was just excellent. So we've got 3 great artists lined up for the next, 6, 7, 8 months. In addition to that, we have some great other things planned. We are redoing our history displays. We're installing brand new history exhibit cases, very, very large. One of the exhibit cases spans linear feet, 24 feet of exhibit space in this exhibit, and it's a floor to ceiling exhibit case. And we're putting in an overview of the history of Westfield. Fascinating exhibit with lots of artifacts from the colonial era all the way up to the present day. We're going to have a grand opening for this new history display at the Athenaeum on September 22nd. So we're really excited about that. And we're going to have a big reception, and we're going to have a lecture by Bob Brown. Bob Brown is a former history professor at Westfield State University. He's now retired, but he does a lot of lectures. He's very, very popular with people. Anybody who knows anything about history in Westfield knows about Bob Brown and his history lectures. And so we're going to feature him at the giving us a lecture at the opening of this new exhibit on September 22nd. So we're really excited about that.
Did you learn anything about Westfield in organizing this exhibit that you didn't know?
I learned dozens of new things about Westfield. It was so interesting. We've been really working on this exhibit for, I would say, about 9 months now. Because the exhibit of this size takes a lot of time to prepare and put it together. And writing the text, and choosing artifacts, and putting everything together and all this. It's a very complex process. I don't think people realize history museum exhibits can require a lot of work in preparation, research, this sort of thing. And it was such a fun project. I learned so much that I didn't know. I thought I had a pretty good handle on Westfield history, but and this is very common when you get into working on a history exhibit like this. You invariably learn so many new things, because you'll as you're doing your research, you'll dig up new facts. And then also too, sometimes you're looking for art. I spent hours and hours and hours going through the artifacts in the Athenaeum's collection. We have a really large collection of artifacts. And when you pull out an artifact, you go, I've never seen this before. And so you start doing the research on what the object is, what its background is, who donated it to the Athenaeum. You start learning all kinds of interesting things. So the whole project was a lot of fun for me. And we had a team of other people working on it as well. And it's been a great project all the way around. And I think people are just going to love this exhibit. So visually interesting.
What's the oldest artifact that you have? Do you have any idea what the oldest one is?
We've got objects that go back to the early 1700s. Trying to think about what the absolute earliest is. We certainly have a lot of things from the 17th century. One of the things that we're really excited about is we actually have the Fowley musket. This is very important. Fowley was a Westfield blacksmith who made a really excellent rifle that became the model, became the prototype, you might say, for the Springfield Armory. The Springfield Armory, as many people probably know in the area, the Springfield Armory became the supplier for the federal government, for the U.S. military, for rifles. They made rifles from the 1790s all the way up to the 1960s and the famous M1 rifle, the 1903 Springfield, all came out of the Springfield Armory. Well, it all started with the Fowley musket made here in Westfield, and we have that musket. So that's going to be a really nice feature. We also have the sword, General William Shepherd, who is famous for being the person who organized the militia that put down Kjaer's rebellion in 1787. Very, very important to American history, because when our forefathers, the founding fathers of the country went to Philadelphia to write our U.S. Constitution, the Kjaer's rebellion had happened just a few months earlier. And they were very concerned about rebellions, and that affected the way our Constitution was written. So here's an event in Western Mass that William Shepherd here from Westville was involved in that affected our Constitution, that is still the basis of our government to this day. So that's another really great artifact. But we have we have Victorian artifacts. A wonderful top hat that was worn by men at that time, women's dresses, just a whole variety of very interesting artifacts like that. So we're really excited to show these things.
What do you think people will take away from this kind of an exhibit about Westfield that they might not have known about the city?
Well, I think because so many people are new to Westfield, haven't lived here that many years. And I think people don't realize how important Westfield was, especially in the Industrial Revolution. Everybody knows the nickname Whip City. That was really the whip industry really originated in Westfield. And at one point, Westfield whips were used around the world and were basically had a monopoly on production of whips in the 19th century. At one time in the late 19th century, 7,500 people in Westfield were employed in some form or fashion in the whip industry, which is incredible. You think about that, 7,500 people when the population of the city was less than 20,000. So you get a sense from that of how important this industry was. So I think people will learn a lot about how Westfield had this very, very important industry, but also even more importantly, I think people will learn how Westfield developed as a city during the Industrial Revolution. Westfield is almost like a textbook example of a 19th century small town, a small farming village that was based on agriculture at the beginning of the 19th century. In 1800, basically Westfield was just a small farming community. By 1900, it was a large industrial city, very reflective of the Industrial Revolution. And I think people will understand that much, much better once they've seen this exhibit. Then also too, I think because we take this exhibit on up into the 20th century, they'll realize how Westfield struggled with the decline of industry, once automobiles came out, there was the demand for whips dropped significantly. So Westfield had to really kind of retool, change its focus in many, many ways. And this exhibit will also tell that story of how the city adjusted to changes in the American economy and American society and the decline of the Industrial Revolution. So I think that's also a very interesting point. I think another thing is not only the industrial and economic side of Westfield, this exhibit will show people how families, how people lived in Westfield at different times, because we're going to have a lot of domestic artifacts that will show how people dressed and how people lived. For instance, we've got a stove that was made in the early 19th century here, when stoves started to replace fireplaces as a means of heating homes. I can go on with many more stories like that. So people will get both a very nice look at the economy and the industry that Westfield is famous for, but also learn a lot about how people lived in Westfield at different times in our history.
Well, Guy, let's take a quick break here to acknowledge our underwriters, and then we'll come back. And you brought a video with you today. I can't wait to see it. Peter Coles is our chief engineer today. This is Athenaeum Spotlight featuring Guy McLain. I'm Mark Auerbach. We'll return after these messages.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating, Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Athenaeum Spotlight, everyone. Guy McLain is here today. He is the director of the Athenaeum. There's an exhibit going on right now with the art of Ruth Kjaer, and Guy and his team put together a 20-minute video that describes the exhibit. This is probably best viewed on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 or our YouTube channel at WSKB Community Radio. If you're listening along today and don't have access to TV, you'll probably enjoy it, but you might want to go back and look at the visuals after we show the video. So Guy, do you want to introduce it very briefly? And then Peter Coles, if you're ready to roll with it, we're ready to go.
Yeah. I think it may be a little hard for people to understand it from, who are just listening to it. But it will give you, I think, just listening to it, you'll give you a good sense of what some of the ideas behind Ruth's work is. And then you can come in and see the exhibit here at the Athenaeum. So I think this will be a really nice introduction for people, and for people watching this on YouTube or on the cable access channel. It'll give you a chance to see some of the paintings, kind of a preview, but keep in mind, we only show a small number. We have almost 40 works of art by Ruth. We show, I think, about 9 or 10 in the video. So there's a lot more to see in addition to to the ones that are shown in the video, but this will provide a nice introduction and a nice way to kind of prepare you for coming in to see this very challenging, very interesting, very provocative show. So I'd say anytime Peter's ready to roll this, we can go ahead and get it started.
Hi, I'm Guy McLain. I'm the director of the Westfield Athenaeum, and we're really excited to be able to introduce a wonderful Western Massachusetts artist, Ruth Kjaer, to the Westfield community. Her work that we see here is our latest exhibit here at the Athenaeum, and we're very excited to show a variety of her paintings here. This exhibit is titled Golden Rain, A Feminist Sensibility in an Age of Eclecticism, and this exhibit is sponsored by Westfield Gas and Electric and Whip City Fiber. We're in the latest exhibit that we've done here at the Westfield Athenaeum. This is an exhibit of the art of Ruth Kjaer. The name of this exhibit is called Golden Rain, A Feminist Sensibility in an Eclectic Age. And her art is very eclectic, to say the least. She also explores a variety of themes that we'll talk about. But before we talk about the subject matter of her paintings, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about her style of art. She comes out of a modernist sensibility. She was deeply influenced in her early years by abstract expressionism. Abstract expressionism was a movement that burst on the scene in the 1940s and 1950s in New York City. Artists like Jackson Pollock, William de Kooning, Mark Rothko were artists of that time period. She was influenced by some of the women artists who came to prominence during that movement. Helen Frankenthaler, Joan Mitchell, and Grace Hardigan. In fact, she found a magazine, she was living in the Midwest at that time, she found a magazine article that covered the story of those three artists, and she was inspired by what they had done. The characteristics of abstract expressionism are very apparent in her art. You can see a lot of flowing, letting the canvas, letting paint run down the canvas, splattering paint. There's an improvisational quality to abstract expressionism that you see in her paint. But the abstract expressionists at that time period were pure abstractionists, whereas Ruth Kjaer does not do pure abstraction. There are usually figures or objects in her paintings, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. But stylistically, as she evolved, she also incorporated the neo-expressionism of the 1980s, and also German expressionism. Artists like Anselm Kiefer and Gerhard Richter were influences on her, and those two artists are still active today. So she has combined several different styles, but then brought her own sense of her own style, has kind of evolved out of the inspiration of abstract expressionism, neo-expressionism, and German expressionism. And this painting is a great example. You can see how the painting is loosely applied. Many times she'll splatter the canvas. She'll sometimes do a conventional brush on the canvas, but at other times she'll splatter the paint. She'll use sponges to spread the paint on the canvas. She uses a variety of techniques, and this is a good example of her use of that. So that gives you a sense of the style of her paintings. The subject matter is especially interesting with her work. She is very concerned about women's issues today. But how do you go about expressing those ideas through art? She felt that the visual medium of art was a good way of exploring some of the themes that women face today. And she found a very kind of interesting, unique way of approaching that. She thought that going back to Greek myths and looking at the great stories that have evolved over the years in Greek culture in ancient times, and bringing those stories to the modern day would be a very good way of exploring women's issues today. So, for example, she uses the story Danae and the Golden Rain, a very well-known story from Greek culture. And this is a story that many other artists have used. Artists from the Renaissance to the present day have painted paintings based on the story of Danae and the Golden Rain. Titian painted a very famous Danae and the Golden Rain painting in the 1500s. Gustav Klimt in the early 20th century in Vienna also did a very famous Danae and the Golden Rain painting. So she took those themes, but also one of the things is all these artists that have used these themes before have been male artists. She wanted to take these stories and turn them over and looking at it from a female perspective. So in order to give you some sense, Danae and the Golden Rain is a story of a king who did not have any male heirs. And so he went to the oracle, and the oracle said, "No, I'm sorry, you're not going to have a male heir, but your daughter will have a son. The only problem is he will grow up and he will kill you when he grows up." The king was very upset about that, so he thought, okay, I can fix this problem. I will lock my daughter up in a tower. So he locked her in a tower, but this tower had a skylight at the top of it. Well, Zeus, being very upset that this king would try to change fate, sent down his sperm in the form of golden rain through the skylight, impregnated Danae. Her son, she had a son. The son grew up and, yes, killed the king. So this story has always been given from a male perspective. What were the motivations behind the king? Why did Zeus do the things he did? But nobody talks about Danae's feelings about this. Did Danae want to be impregnated? How did she feel about her father's actions? These are stories that Ruth Kjaer in these paintings tries to address and use that story as a way of looking at male-dominated culture today. And this is a perfect example of this. This is called Golden Rain Blue. It has a figure in the middle here. You can see the shape of the head and the torso coming down right in this area here. But what's a little harder to see is the second figure. There's a figure laying down right here. You can see the head here, the shoulders, the torso body, and the legs going into this part. So he has this male looming figure over a female figure that's laying down. This is Danae, and this male figure is potentially a variety of things. Zeus, the king, her father, or other male figures. The golden rain is coming down here and coming down on Danae here. So you can see the structure of this painting. Let's look at another example now. This painting here is called Golden Rain, number 13. This painting is very interesting. It's a variation off this, very different in approach to the painting we just saw. You can see a nude female figure right here. You can see the head right here, the shoulders, and then the hips coming down right in this area right here. And you can see the golden rain streaming down on Danae. This dark area here is a looming male figure. And take note that the male figure is faced away from the female figure. The male figure is much larger than the female figure, and the male figure is turned away from the female figure. And so the visitor, the viewer of this painting is invited to interpret why this male figure is looming over the female figure, but also turning away from the female figure. I think this is one of her most interesting paintings, an example of Danae in the Golden Rain. Let's move to another painting now. This painting here is Perseus and Andromeda, another story that Ruth Kjaer uses in her paintings. Andromeda was chained to a rock, and Perseus is the person who came and rescued her from the rock and saved her from the sea monster that was about to devour her. Ruth Kjaer felt that this is a constant theme in so many stories in Western culture, from the Greek myths all the way up to the present day. Males are always rescuing females. And so she takes the story of Andromeda and Perseus, a classic male rescuing a female story, and puts it in a little different light. She has the golden rain element from Danae, but she uses it in this case with Perseus and Andromeda, because Perseus, after he rescues Andromeda, falls in love with her. And so here you have the female figure here, you have the darker male figure behind, but in this case, they're together. They're almost like a couple. And the golden rain is coming down on both of the figures. So here she's doing an interesting thing. She's mixing two Greek myth stories in order to get across a point about male-dominated culture, and also a story that runs through so many of our novels, short stories, poems in Western culture, that of the male rescuing the female. Let's move to another painting now. This is another painting that really illustrates what Ruth Kjaer explores in her art. But in this case, she's on the borderline of abstraction here. Many of her paintings have to be looked at very closely to identify the figures. So the paintings are almost abstract, but not quite. And this is a great example of that. You have this kind of explosive middle area here. And each viewer is invited to interpret this kind of explosive element here. She also built, to make it even have more of an impact, she builds up this section of the canvas with a lot of texture. There's a lot of like bubbly and materials in the paint that she's embedded in the paint. And that's surrounded by areas, other areas of the painting are painted with a very loose, very light paint with no texture in it. But in this middle kind of explosive area, there's a lot of texture in there. And here is the golden rain streaming down. But we can't find a figure. There's no figure in this painting. Here, she's really at the edge of abstraction. In fact, it could be seen as an abstract painting. The only reason we can't classify it as a pure abstract painting is because we definitely know the element of the golden rain coming down. And this element could be interpreted as an explosive element or bushes, vegetation of some kind. She leaves that open for the viewer to interpret. So here, she's the reason she's not being as literal as she is in some of the other paintings, where you can definitely see figures, and you can see the figures with the golden rain coming down. In this case, she leaves it much open so that the viewer can interpret this painting from their own perspective, their own experience. This is another very interesting painting by Ruth Kjaer. In this case, she doesn't make a reference to a particular Greek myth, but she uses some of the same vocabulary that she's used in her Greek myth paintings in this particular work of art. We have this very distinctive male figure on a pedestal. You can see the pedestal here. It's like a Greek statue. It looks just like a Greek statue. And this Greek statue dominates the painting. And there's a lot of very wild activity around it. This is a very good example of how she applies abstract expressionist brushstroke styles. You can see how how she splattered paint in this area. You can see like a line where she took the brush and just flung the brush and got these interesting effects of paint splattering across there, which gives a sense of motion and movement and activity in the painting. But the dominant element of the painting is the man on the pedestal, and she calls this man on a pedestal. And of course, it's a reference to a male-dominated society in which males dominate. And there's one very subtle element here that can easily be missed looking at this painting. Here's the man on the pedestal, and here down in the very corner of the painting, almost off the painting, is a woman laying on the ground. We only can see her legs. So the implication is very clear. In a male-dominant society, we put men on a pedestal. Women are relegated to a lower position. It's a very, very interesting painting here, and how she's used both the painterly elements and the stylistic elements to make a very interesting point today. Let's move to another painting now. This painting is called Golden Rain number 7, and it's part of her series of Golden Rain paintings that we've been discussing. Here again, she uses a lot of the elements of the Danae and the Golden Rain story, but she gives it a little bit different twist here. In this case, we have a female figure here, we have a male figure here, and then we have the golden rain coming down primarily on the female figure. This is a very beautiful painting. This doesn't have some of the emotional impact of some of the other paintings, and there's an implication in this painting that maybe Danae desired a relationship with someone, we don't know who, and that's the basis, and that's the nature of her relationship, and what leads to the birth of her son. We don't know. And this painting shows the range of Ruth Kjaer's work. Sometimes the paintings are clearly about how males dominate females, about the experience of females suffering through all kinds of elements, domestic abuse, other forms of violence in modern day society. But she also has many paintings where the experience is seen in a very positive way. Here is potentially a couple who are in love. We don't know for sure. Again, she allows a range for the visitor to come in, view the painting, and make up their own mind about it and establish their own impression. And there's a range in her art. The series has a range from referencing violence toward women all the way to women experiencing joy and happiness in relationships. In this painting, one of my favorites, I love the colors in this, how she mixes colors that you wouldn't normally think to mix, kind of this purple with the red here. She also has thrown a little bit of glitter. You can see patches of glitter on the canvas here. This painting is called Stream of Tears, and it's a painting where she doesn't reference a particular Greek myth, but she gives you a sense of female struggle in a male-dominated society. You can see the female figure. There's a head here, and the body is somewhat is kind of angling down. It's almost like she's laying on a recliner of some kind there. And then you can see these dark periods here. It's like the heads of people kind of over her, looking at her. We don't know what to make out of this, and Ruth Kjaer leaves this open to the viewer to interpret in a variety of ways. But we have a sense of many paintings that males did from the Renaissance through the Baroque all the way up to the modern day were paintings where women are shown nude, reclining back on a couch or a bed of some kind. It's a very common theme in Western European art. Here she's taken it and given it kind of a foreboding because of the darkness, and then also look how she's allowed paint to stream down over the canvas, and she calls it Stream of Tears, which gives us a hint of where she's going with it. The Stream of Tears, the female figure being eroticized, being made an object, being objectified, is certainly what she's exploring in this painting. And here are all these heads, the implication being male figures looming over and staring at the female figure that's laying here across the canvas. A very, very interesting painting here. Let's move to one other painting. This painting is called A Soul's Facade. Again, she doesn't make a reference in this, in the title at least, to a particular Greek myth, but you can definitely see the golden rain coming down here again, and then you just have this one lone figure here in the middle of the canvas. And she leaves this in a very neutral place so that the viewer can come to this painting and make out what they want to see in this painting. Is she suffering? Is she enjoying her experience? Is she in a state of ecstasy? We don't know. We leave that up for the viewer to see. And she keeps the figure, as in most of her paintings, she keeps the figure very nebulous in order to allow us to enter, to almost see, in fact, you could say this about almost all these paintings. She puts us in a dream state. Because of her painterly style, all her paintings tend to send us into some sort of subconscious or dream state in order to explore this theme. Because many times in our dreams is when we connect to our emotional beings in a very meaningful way. And so I think this is this is one of her smaller paintings, but it's one of her very most interesting paintings. I hope you've enjoyed looking at the paintings here and exploring the work of Ruth Kjaer in this exhibit. I think these paintings are incredibly interesting and provocative works of art. And I hope that you've enjoyed a little bit of an exploration of some of the themes that Ruth Kjaer explores in her paintings. And I hope you have the opportunity to come in and see this wonderful exhibit. In addition to the paintings I've talked about in this, there are many, many more to be seen. This is a very large exhibit, and I hope all of you can come in and see this really exciting show here at the Westfield Athenaeum.
Wow, Guy, that's quite a series of paintings.
Her paintings are just so fascinating, and I wish we could have shown more of her paintings in this video. Just time didn't allow. No, I love her. They're so colorful. They're so interesting. They're so varied. Even though she does these series based on Greek myths, there's such a variety of themes she explores and in the way she does it. And in not only the way the way she explores the subject, but the way she paints each painting almost each painting is almost like a completely new creation. And then she's really a colorist. I love her colors. One painting, you have these wonderful blues, and other paintings will be reds and purples. I'm just amazed at the variety of colors she uses. And that's one of the things that when you come into this exhibit, you're just overwhelmed with all the different colors and just the impact of these paintings and the way she painted them. I just think it's a great show. She's doing such interesting work right now.
Now, the video that you just showed that you did, do you do this kind of videos for all of the exhibits that come to the Athenaeum?
We try to do so. We approach this on an individual basis. Sometimes artists want us to do something a little different. An artist may sometimes artists want to do a presentation themselves, and we honor that possibility because we think that sometimes an artist talking about their exhibits can be very fascinating. In this case, Ruth thought it best to allow me to give a presentation on it. Different artists have different approaches to this. Some artists want to really talk about their work. Other artists don't like to talk about their work so much. They want to just allow people to have their own interpretation and maybe have other scholars bring an element into it. So we try to approach each exhibit in a way where we can give an introduction to what the artist is doing, but we might do it in different ways with different artists. In this case, I think it was really successful in that I was able to do a presentation like this. But another exhibit, we might take another approach to it and have maybe the artist talk or do something else like that.
Yeah, well, it was really nice that on our last version of Athenaeum Spotlight that she came on the program. And I found it interesting that she talked about some of the hardware supplies that she bought to make these paintings and to give them texture. And I mean, you don't see that texture watching the video, but you do see the colors. And when she was describing the artwork on the program, I had no idea the vibrancy of the color until I saw the video. So now I want to come to the Athenaeum and check this out.
And one of the things that you just can't see in a video or in photo reproductions, and she has a website, you can go and see her art on her website and this sort of thing. But one thing is, in terms of like the texture and some of the qualities of the paintings, you have to come and see the original paintings. There's just no way around it. And it's fascinating what she does. She's so original in her ideas. I'm just amazed at how she uses colors and uses unusual colors many times in her paintings, combinations of colors that you wouldn't think would go together, and then all these different textures. She uses things like skid text. Skid text is a material that people put in paint to paint around swimming pools to keep from slipping, because it can be very slippery, wet pavement by a swimming pool. So they put skid text in the paint. She uses that, and you can see the little grains of skid text in many of her paintings. She also uses another stuff called great stuff, which is kind of a bubbly type of material that's used for caulking windows and things like that. And she uses that on the paintings and then paints over the material. So it's fascinating how she just has all these different kind of tools in the toolbox, different techniques to use in creating her paintings. And each painting is so unique. Every painting, she'll do something different in each painting.
I have a question. I mean, the next artist coming online is Laura Radwell, who is so well known in the area. And she shows in galleries where you can go in and see a show of hers and you can buy the painting. When it's is the paintings that are on exhibit now at the Athenaeum, will the artists sell them eventually, or what happens to them?
Yes. We do allow the artist to sell paintings here, and it's also a fundraiser for the Athenaeum. We get a certain cut if someone buys a painting from the show. Part of those funds come to the Athenaeum to support future art exhibits. And in the case when Ruth Kjaer, already to date, we have sold 4 of her paintings that are in this show. So it's remarkable. She is selling her paintings, and people are coming in and being so impressed by this. We've had a lot of people ask about these paintings, but and already 4 of them have sold.
So people, if they want to buy one, they could, but they have to leave it hanging at the Athenaeum till the exhibit's over. You don't get to walk out with it, right?
Yes, that's correct. If someone comes in and says, "Oh, I want this painting. Can you hold this painting for me?" What we do is we put a red dot on the frame or the side of the painting to indicate that painting is sold. But yes, it does stay in the exhibit until the end of the exhibit, and then we send it on. Either the person can come pick up the painting, or we will make arrangements to get the painting to them. So it's really nice. So we work almost like a commercial gallery in some ways here.
Yeah, we only have a couple of seconds before we have to go, but I have a question for you. It was in the news recently that a man at the Louvre was arrested for throwing a pastry at the Mona Lisa. And it was a cream pastry. I don't know whether he actually slammed her face with it, but he threw a pastry and he was arrested. Is that something that curators have to worry about these days?
Yes, we sure do. This is not an unusual event. One thing about the Mona Lisa is it's encased. If anybody who's been to the Louvre knows, it's encased in bulletproof glass. So that pastry going against it, didn't really damage the painting. But many paintings in museums are exposed and open there. And yes, this is a problem. There are many cases of crazy people coming in, and damaging paintings. This definitely is something that happens quite often. And museums do what they can to protect the works of art that they have in their museums. But there is a certain vulnerability that exists, and it's really sad when you see a great work of art damaged by some crazy person coming in doing something they shouldn't do.
Well, Guy, we're out of time, but that video is fantastic. And as always, thanks for being here to make Athenaeum Spotlight a reality. We'll be back in about 3 weeks with another edition of Athenaeum Spotlight. If you missed a part of today's program or want to share it with friends, it is archived on YouTube at WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. Peter Coles has been our chief engineer today. Guy McLain is the director of the Westfield Athenaeum. I'm Mark Auerbach, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for being with us.
What I wanted was to fall asleep, close my eyes and disappear, like a paddle on a stream, a feather on the air. Lily white and poppy red, I trembled when he laid me out. You won't feel a thing, he said, when you go down. Nothing gonna wake you now. Dreams are sweet until they're not. Men are kind until they aren't. Flowers bloom until they rot and fall apart. Is anybody listening? I open my mouth and nothing comes out. Nothing gonna wake me now. beneath my heels, walking in the sun. I remember someone by my side turned his face to mine, and then I turned away into the shade. Come and find me lying in the bed I'm in.